Well, the issue of DNA profiling has been carried out in a number of different European cities. It's also been very common in the United States of America. And so far, all the indications point that it is very effective. There are some reports stating that it can be up to 90% effective, but in Gibraltar, obviously, time will tell. We do know, obviously, that how effective the whole initiative will depend on enforcement and the adequate maintenance of the database, and that is precisely what we've done.
Well, the move sees increases in both registration and licence fees, so could it be viewed perhaps that responsible dog owners are now being targeted at the expense of those who've been careless in the past?
Well, it depends which way you look at it, really, because if you consider the fact that the registration fee for dogs was only £7.50 and the licence fee was only a £5 fee, which was renewed every year, the costs really are considered to be acceptable, at least in our view, considering the changes that they can introduce in Gibraltar in terms of making our streets much more cleaner. So in our view, we feel that the increased costs are totally justified.
Fines for dog fouling now having increased to £400, with the penalty for those not registering, vaccinating or licensing the dogs actually raised to £1,000. So do you think this will serve as deterrence?
We think it will. We've gone for a three-pronged approach. First of all, we've changed the legislation. There have been key changes to the Animals and Birds Act with regards to increasing fines. We've also given a lot of care and attention to the issue of enforcement. The RGP is obviously taking the lead there, but the Department of the Environment and Climate Change, together with the Environmental Agency, have done a lot of work in this regard. And we will be stepping up the enforcement of what is essentially dog fouling in hotspots. We've also deployed a number of CCTV cameras in different areas, but unfortunately it hasn't been as effective as we would have liked it to be, because it's just moved the problem to a different area. So we're hoping that this initiative, the new DNA testing, will go a long way towards helping with that problem. In addition to that, we've also done quite a bit of work in terms of education. We've got an awareness campaign. We've got adverts on GBC. The Environmental Agency have also done a lot of work with local schools. They've done a poster competition. So hopefully, as a result of that sort of combined effort, we'll be able to make the change that is required and make our streets clean.
Focusing on the enforcement, how will this be actually policed?
Well, essentially, yes. There'll be a combined effort. The RGP will take the lead with what is essentially making sure that the dogs are registered and licensed. The Department of the Environment and Climate Change, together with the Environmental Agency, will carry out patrols in different parts of Gibraltar, collecting samples, and then we'll be sending those off and matching the results with the newly created DNA database.
And the enforcement itself, how will you go about policing this?
It will be done by means of making or cross-checking the dog licenses that should be clearly displayed on the dogs with our records. So essentially, an enforcement officer will can approach the dog owner, check that whether they have the required license, and if they don't, then obviously they can take the issue forward.